Hey guys, what's up? In this week's episode of the Note MBA podcast, we talk a little bit about some renovation mishaps that we've had and taking those failures and carrying them into future successes, as well as we talk a little bit about the importance of goal setting for personal and professional. You know how we love our goals. On top of that, we talk a little bit about this idea of being forced into closing, being blackballed, and some other things that are happening in and around the real estate investing space. Check out this week's episode right now.
On the other end of it, I was assuming this contractor was going to treat my money like it was his and treat my properties like it was his, with a focus on let's turn them and do them. And I know some of the people that have done rehabs and got burnt are just sitting there laughing and smiling and crying at the same time.
as you walk around this issue.
First, seconds, performing, non-performing? What the f***? Note buyers, when it seems like you're in this business alone, know Chase, Robert, and the rest of their tribe are at it every week. They're bringing updates from their own note businesses as they work to find, fund, and finish deals. Follow along as they share their grassroots education with you, tuition-free. If you'd like to know more about what they do and to download the entire back catalog, check out notemba.com. Now, here are your hosts, Chase Thompson and Robert Woods.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Note MBA podcast, your home for note investing on iTunes. I am Chase Thompson, joined as always by Mr. Robert Woods. Just in case anybody is wondering why I might sound a little strange, I'm in Dallas, first of all. I got an opportunity to come up and meet with a few investors that are up here in Dallas, and I'm in somebody's office building here in an office that is completely unfurnished. So it's just walls, sound bouncing off, and all that kind of stuff. So I hope it doesn't sound terrible. Mr. Woods, you just got back from the East Coast, or the West Coast, I'm sorry, LA.
Yeah, dude. So I've never done an RV trip. And we rented an RV for New Year's and stayed in Manhattan Beach right on the ocean. Ooh. It was awesome.
I'm looking to do an RV trip with my wife. A lot less exciting. We're going to Southern Illinois, but
it's what you make of it and who you're with.
So you had a really great New Year's out in LA. That's very exciting. I was trying to figure out when to text you. I'm like, he's 2 hours behind, but I really want to go to bed. So I just kind of cut the difference and had to get the text out to you. You actually had a really great post you put up on Facebook. I'll link it up in the show notes. Taking a picture, the actual organic reach on that post has been fantastic. I've loved that we've reached as many people as we have with it because the message that's attached to the photo, out on the beach, the whole thing, it's a good bit, man.
Well, dude, you know what was kind of great about it? When I travel, and my friends, my poor buddies who've been with me since high school and college, whenever we do these group trips, I wake up notoriously early, even if it was, let's say, New Year's Day, and I had maybe had a drink or two the night before. And I was walking along the beach, re-listening to the audio from episode 96, which I do anyways pretty much on my own. And if you don't know exactly what episode that is, that's the one where we highlighted The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. And, just great positive mindset. I looked at the beach and I was like, oh, man. I was like, I just got to get this off my chest because it's so light. Everybody should have it on their chest.
I love it. No, I thought it was excellent. I thought it was a good kind of remembrance. It's important to, it goes back to kind of goals. We were talking about goals, like how many times are you writing them down? How many times are you looking at them? How many times are you, you brush your teeth every day for a reason, right? Like what's more important? Now, I'm not saying brushing your teeth's not, but like writing down your goals, looking at your goals, that kind of stuff's important. And doing that daily. It's, who is the, somebody actually, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was either about marketing or prospecting or something like that. But he essentially said there's a reason why we bathe every day. Like the things you do daily, you got to do them. It's an important gig. So I think that's awesome. Really quick, wanted to touch base on an event that I might be going to. It all depends on how the schedule works out. But there is a note buying conference happening up in New Jersey. You were actually talking with Mark Gold recently, right? You actually had an opportunity to sit with him?
I got to see a lot of our past interviewees. I saw Mark Gold. I saw Jade Tenenbaum and Mr. Joel Markovitz while I was down in SoCal, Southern California. So it was a good little visit.
So Mark Gold is putting on a distressed note expo, as it were, up in New Jersey. There's not a ton of these, kind of events that happen over there on the East Coast. So if you're in the area, I would recommend it. We're not like plugging it because we're going or we're going to be presenting or anything crazy. But, I personally feel like anytime you can get out, you can do a good job with your networking. Maybe get a little bit of education on a nuance of the business you didn't know or something like that. It might be a good opportunity to head out.
It is scheduled for the last week of January, correct?
Yes.
Weekend.
Right. So,
I have
again,
a bachelor party in Key West, so that's why I'm missing it.
Oh,
Sorry.
Man. I'm thinking about heading up there because I wanted to spend as many moments as I could with another friend of ours, Dan Zatofsky, who's up in that area. So I think I'm going to potentially make a little two-for action out of it, which would be a lot of fun. But yeah, if you guys are out in the area and I end up making it out, I would love to get an opportunity to meet any of you guys or anything. Just send me a message if you're going to be headed to that event, and we'll try to make a little mini meetup out of it. That'd be a lot of fun. Moving on, this will be a slightly shorter show. You got your long show, Lori, okay? Like if you're in the middle of your run right now, just understand you might have to, flip over to some Pandora after this. This will be a slightly shorter show, but we wanted to talk about two particular things regarding deals on this episode. So we've got, I'm trying to think, how would you intro this?
Well, I think because we're not going over numbers, I'm going to give, a very grassroots educational thing per our tagline that happened. And it was, it came from a very good place. And the funny thing about it, I was talking to somebody, I was like, I accept 100% responsibility for how bad this situation got. However, it got that way from like my optimism and some of the success I've had in the past doing a very similar thing. And it's not directly notes. It's once we get the notes back, if you end up foreclosing, which my business brings in a relatively decent number of these REOs. And we happen to, in the last 3 months, really the last 3 months we got them, the last 2 months we were doing contracts. We had 3 separate full renovation projects in Ohio, plus we had another trash out. And then we had an individual working on 2 other properties. So we basically had one contractor working on 6 properties for us. And I essentially started this relationship off of a referral from somebody who I've done a lot of business with and I have extreme trust with. And was like, wait, this guy's good enough to do business with you. He's good enough to do business with me, and I'll do business with him the way I do business with you. Well, lesson learned, it's not his fault. It's mine for allowing it. So I gave this contractor a lot of leeway to kind of just go do everything. I wired essentially almost the full wiring amount for one of the projects and sporadically some of the other ones. And then we had some delays, it snowed up in that area, and we had some other delays during the health problems of one of his contractors, but we hadn't gone up there to inspect the property. And I was given, a couple opportunities to go up there that just didn't work out. And then on the other end of it, I was assuming this contractor was going to treat my money like it was his and treat my properties like it was his, with a focus on let's turn them and do them. And I know some of the people that have done rehabs and got burnt are just sitting there laughing and smiling and crying at the same time.
as you walk around this issue.
Yeah, well, they know exactly where it's going. You're like, ha, 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 we've all done this. This has happened before. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So just this last week over the holiday, Jeff, who works with me, I flew him up there to go see some of his family over the holidays. And he went to go and inspect these properties. What was interesting is just the week before when I'd been in Atlanta, the contractor had been asking me for final payment on one of the properties. Well, that final payment for the one property would have represented final payment for all 3 of these projects that were full renos, paid in full. And I was like, no, I'm not going to cut a check yet. I'm going to wait for Jeff to go up there. I'll send Jeff with the check. Well, in reality, I didn't even send Jeff with the check because of the information that I had by the time he got up there. One of the properties that he'd asked for a check for hadn't even been trashed out. A second property had been partially trashed out that was a $30,000 renovation. Still hadn't had half the stuff done with it. And then the other one, I just saw the pictures from our property manager who listed it for rent. And I don't know about you guys or how you have your contractors finish your projects, but there was like one light bulb in every fixture. These brand new fixtures with one light. I'm like, come on, man, who does that? Like a tenant's going to go in there, like, what are you doing being lazy? Like the finish quality was just not good. And the contractor is what I would believe is a good person, a good-natured person. He was not trying to rip me off. He's still actually going to finish the work. He's just too busy. Wasn't managing his people, wasn't managing his projects. And the reason why I didn't go through the roof is the whole reason that it was allowed to happen is because I was too busy with a few of my other projects, and I wasn't managing him. And at the end of the day, it falls on us, which where I'm going with that in a different level is they're all going to get recouped. Yes, in some theory, did I lose money from a delay of time, or did I just not make as much money? Whatever your semantics are and how you want to go about that, you can evaluate it that way. But it just goes to reinforcing why I'm spending so much time in the last quarter of 2016 and now in 2017 working on my systems. And what's a funny thing to really acknowledge as a result of this is we've talked about systems, because Chase was just up in part of his trip up to Dallas was meeting with another investor to learn about their systems.
Yep.
And the problem that I got into this year was because early in the year I went and bought a ton of stuff under the thought that I had such great systems that I could just run all these assets and not have any trouble. The catch is you always have to be working on your systems. Your systems are never going to be finished, I don't think.
No,
at least I don't believe mine are going to be.
Yeah, not unless you stay the same, right? I mean, like, not unless your intention is to always buy 10 a year, like unless unless your system is perfectly designed for the whatever your thing is. But yeah,
if you want
so
to continue
much so. Yeah, so one of the investors I met with, so much so that I was like, well, what happens when your business gets so big that da da da? He's like, well, by that time I'll just become the private money guy, like. He's like, by the time I get that large that my system would be too big to handle this many deals, he's like, then I'll just become the private money guy. Because then he's like, I'll have the money, and I don't want to have to do the work. I don't have to, so he, like for his end game, but which is so great. I just love that. But on the topic of this, with dealing with the reno part, this also goes back to something we've talked about in a couple of episodes past, which is. Another issue with this business sometimes can be you see a potential deal, you see a CFD, you see a note even that you can pick up for cheap, but you're not always going to be into it for cheap. It's having the reserves, having that as a part of your business, making sure that you're either funding it properly up front or you yourself can fund this type of situation, which sometimes you're going to know ahead of time and sometimes you are not. And so that's one of those other kind of hidden things that that we've harped on in the past, right? It's being able to have the appropriate funds set aside to handle this type of situation. And the faster you grow, the sooner it all happens. You're going to be into 3 or 4 deals like Robby's talking about, and then all of a sudden they all end up being this. And you're like, oh, they're all going to require a big check. Or at least, milestone checks. That's the big thing. That's a big issue.
Well, and here's one of the funny things to talk about is a bulk of the renovations I did last year, and let's say 2015, they got me to where I was like, okay, we can grow. I'm very comfortable. They were note renovations. We're in Florida. There weren't a lot of out-of-state renovations going on in 2015.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So here's the other unique thing. We'll have a case study because we just went under contract on that property in Atlanta, and it will be a really interesting case study to go over and explain to people how badly I botched the renovation process from just having kind of the same attitude and trusting people to move forward with it and not overseeing it. We're still going to make money. It's the fact we could have made a lot more money in a lot less time. And it's just going back to it, as we grow the business, the systems that weren't right, my note systems are still fine. I got no issues with my note systems. Totally. We're still buying and doing. It's when I realized, I would say right now, if I look at our full portfolio between a bunch of the stuff in Chicago, Florida, Atlanta, and all of Ohio, I probably have almost $350,000, $400,000 in cash out just managing renovations. Mm-hmm. And that's not even note deals. And I didn't have systems built inside of my company to manage renovations to that skill. So that's the next thing that we're working on right now. Actually, Jeff is working on that project. So it'll be really nice to have that implemented into him. Well, the catch is with that much stuff out, $40,000 of what he makes next year will become just from improvements in the system. Losing 500 here, 500 there. Well, If you lose $500 a month on 5 projects, that's 30 grand for the year right there.
Sure. And so that aside, so we've got that. Another one of the kind of, like you mentioned, one of the grassroots things that we've been having a lot of conversations, having a lot of, dealings with recently. I've actually talked with some investors about it. Is this idea of purchasing? Is when it comes to purchasing and how that process is supposed to go, how sometimes you can be, hard sold, as it were, and how that process works. So I love the way you phrased it. Yeah, I want you to kind of give have the head of steam on this one.
Yeah, so we've talked about this in the past, and it went to our Robby's failed project last year of NoteLink, which was a great idea. Greatly executed, poorly operated, and it's just disappeared. But part of the catch where that came from is the buying process. And were you getting good information? Were you getting collateral in advance? Did you get your contract in a timely manner? And we shot a video earlier just in the last quarter when we were talking about one of the properties in Wisconsin I bought, saying, hey, it's the fourth quarter. A lot of people want to close deals, which is great. What I've seen now and what I saw last week while I was on vacation is sellers or people who have coordinated sales, not necessarily brokers, almost bullying people into closing without providing them contracts. There were still questions about due diligence. And, I would say it's a big stew. There's a lot of blame to be passed around to any party. But the biggest thing I kept speaking to some individuals about, and I had this conversation with 4 different individuals over the last week and a half, and I just said, listen, do you have X, Y, and Z that you need to feel comfortable to close this deal? And the response was no, but somebody's threatened to take this deal from me, or they're going to blacklist me or blackball me or use that term. And I'm like, you know what? I was like, stop right there. Anybody that's using the term blackball or blacklist with you, and you're not just a complete jerk, there are people who deserve that have done bad business or have done things. But if you're just not comfortable, or the information hasn't flowed the way that you feel that it really should be, anyone who uses those terms with you is living in a current world of just a limited mindset. Because here's the catch. If you're only buying from one source and you feel they have the power, then you've given them the power. The reality is, if you go out and you create your note business the way you've been told to, taught to, or influenced to do it, where you curate your own relationships, you meeting other asset managers, you're talking to other people, and you're learning how to do this, and then you find the nuances, you better communicate with people, because communication is the key to really building those relationships. There is no such thing as being blackballed or blacklisted from this business, because there are so many people from coast to coast, north to south, selling notes involved in the business. There's banks that you've probably never called on that have non-performing notes on their books that you could go with. Well, somebody can't blacklist you from a bank they don't even know exists. So the biggest thing from that is, you only give up the control and power to people that you allow them to take, and realize that you need to do what's right for your business and not feel pressured into doing something that's inappropriate. It may be a little bit of money or a lot of money. It doesn't matter. It's money at the end of the day. And if you're not going to be respectful of it because you feel uncomfortable and you're just going to do what somebody tells you to do, you're going to end up making some mistakes and tripping. And the biggest thing with it is, if it just doesn't feel good, how many times if you look back on your life and you just had that gut feeling or that intuition and you just weren't ready, and then what do? 2 days, 3 weeks, 4 months later, all you're doing is telling people, well, I just knew it wasn't going to work out well, but I went and did it anyway. At that point, you've made your own bed. But I just think that there's a lot of people right now feeling like they just don't have control. And we watch some of these Facebook groups where people are like, oh, there's no assets, or other people are saying there's tons of assets. It's whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right kind of mindset. So when you're working with people or working through people, obviously we've all played the game telephone when we were little, right? You start with, next Tuesday we're all going to the movies and Robby's paying, and you get back to the end of it and it's like, oh, we're all going on the new Titanic cruise ship because Chase won the lottery and told Robby he could have 5% of it, and then that's what he's going to do with it. Well, if you're going through multiple sources and the conduit's not direct also, your information's not going to be as good. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It doesn't mean it's wrong. I'm just saying, if you're feeling that way in the marketplace, you need to go out and build your own direct relationships.
Totally. Good. So that is something that I've been having a conversation with people about that has just been a weird thing to talk about. And it happens, and it seems to make causation, correlation, whatever. But this end of the year push that everybody has obviously makes it make sense and whatever the case may be. But on the topic of doing things that are right for your business, I'm going to be honest with you, Robby. I've only gotten a couple of emails from people about their goals, about where their plans are for 2017 based off of last week's show. Listen, it's not too late. I know it's already 2017, but you need to write them down as a quick testimony to the true impact and power that Mr. Robert Woods has had on my family and this whole process. My wife wrote down goals for the first time, as far as I know, ever. One of them is actually a reading goal. She wants to read 9 books this year, which sounds crazy, but when you got 3 kids running around all the time, you're always having somebody to, the time devoted to be able to do that, she's going to have to find, and that's just one of them. She has multiple goals that she's got ready to set this year. First time she's ever written them down. I've been a little bit, not disappointed. I just expected a couple more messages from people that were as jacked for 2017 as we were. And they're like, I got my goals. I got them written down. I've got them. The investor I met with, you and I both know, he shows me his phone. He's got an Android. And he uses an app that allows him to put widgets on the screen. So basically every time he brings up his phone, he's got them right there on his, they're in his face. And you know how people look at their phones 200 times a day. They are in his face all the time now. He's so geared in, so jacked up, listens to the show, and he's like, look, man, I got him. I got my list right here. This is what, I got my list. And they're great goals, man. I'm pumped for the guy. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
All I know, it's kind of like I said about this alkaline water I drink. Is it really worth the money? I don't know, but I certainly know it's not hurting me. And
sure.
So with the goals thing, I'll tell you this, the odds are it's helping you a lot more than it's going to hurt you, that's for sure. And it's not going to cost you anything other than some time.
I think it's worth the weird looks we're going to get when people come into our house, walk into our kitchen, the hub of the house, and see a whiteboard on the wall and go wow, that's what's that about? Oh, those are our goals. Those are our goals for 2017.
You know when they're really going to be worth it? In 10 years. When one of your family members or some friend or somebody you just haven't talked to for a while tells you how easy your life is and how nice it must be. And you go, buddy, come on, man. I've been doing these. I tried to set this goal a decade ago. I thought I was going to be here, 8 years ago. It took me 10 years to get this house.
Yeah, there you go.
This lifestyle. Don't tell me. You got to put the time in up front.
That 14-year overnight success. That's what I'm after. I'm totally. If I can curb it by 4 years, I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, it's that non-overnight success, overnight success. So I've been jacked with the response to the goals episode. I hope that you guys really took that to heart. It is not too late. Technically, for me. I'm going to be real. I think this is the biggest year I've ever had. This year, this year feels juiced. This year feels like it's a corked bat. It's good. It's a good vibe this year.
It always, each year for both of us has gotten better since we met.
Well, sure.
I saw better every year before that.
I saw a photo that I love this. Gary Vee put this up. I think it was I either saw it on Facebook or Instagram, where basically he said 2016 was great, and then there was a line, and then right below it's 2017 is going to be great. He's just it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. The ups and downs, families, as family's healthy, bills paid, you're moving forward in your business, things are good, things are great, and it was a good vibe. Anything else for the people, Mr. Woods?
I think this week that'll be good. We got I'm finishing that goal with getting all my stuff put into Salesforce, and we will have some good number stuff to go over some deals.
Yeah, so that's been kind of that's been the little bit of the hiccup in some of the number stuff because we're transitioning systems and kind of moving some stuff over. So we'll have some number stuff coming up.
We got
which will
that.
be good.
I'm going to throw it out there now. I meant to tell Chase about this in our pre-production.
This is two shows in a row. Two shows in a row, people. I'm getting the curveball.
I, not this week, but next week, am going to start going. I could do it at home, and I probably will do it at home at first if the audio's okay. I've just got some great books that I've been reading and really small excerpts from them. We're going to start recording, and we're going to release those on like Friday. And if you want to listen to them, great. If you don't, you weren't going to read the book anyway, so it's fine. Just kidding. Hopefully you will.
No, that'll be good. No, we talked about that a while ago, and then you're going to start taking action on it. I like it.
Well, so I got 3 books in the corner right now that we're going to read from. I'm going to tell you what they are. Most of you have probably read 1 or 2 of them if you actually
listen to the show.
Books.
Oh, speaking of books, before we head out, finish your bit, but I got a giveaway.
Well, we got The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles.
Okay.
A random happening 2 weeks ago. I was listening to it in the living room, taking some notes, just feeling good. And I told Chase about it because he called me. We were on FaceTime. So I paused the YouTube and took the call. And I said something about what I was doing, and it brought up Wallace Wattles and The Science of Getting Rich. He literally puts his hand into his passenger side seat and pulls up the book because that's what he was reading that day, too.
That's what I was reading.
we don't plan this stuff either. It's crazy. We're going to start reading some excerpts from Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. And then an interesting book that I just got given as an amazing Christmas present. We're going to read some excerpts from a book called All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten.
Oh, killer. Is that the one with the... No, that's not the one with the dinosaur in the front. I'm thinking of a different book.
I know
what you're talking about.
I don't have the book cover. I have an original from 1986. It was actually a gift from their grandmother. And this is their favorite book, and they passed it down to me.
Oh, I love it.
The actual book from the grandmother. So I'm kind of stoked to have it in my possession. I was reading some
that's
of
cool.
To be honest, the writing, I believe I need to do some research. The belief is, and I know I'm going to have to correct this when we do the shows, that the author was a priest or a pastor. But the way he writes makes me think that he enjoys, he's got a mind that's very open and creative, a very Colorado, Oregon, Washington, California kind of creative.
Sure, I like it.
I like the way he looks at the world. It's quite interesting. So, obviously I'm appreciative of that perspective. And so we're gonna start doing these. I don't know how we're gonna release them. Chase will decide that and actually do all that because, as you guys know, I have none of the technical capabilities whatsoever. Teamwork making the dream work. But when you guys start listening to those, we would always love and appreciate some feedback.
Yes, absolutely. So here is, I love that. Those will be coming out. I'm very excited. I have a book giveaway. We mentioned one of my goals on the show last week about only reading one book, and then the very fortuitous conversation I have with my wife, and she's like, "You should read all the Tim," and then Robbie's like, "You should read." So it just worked out really well. So I'm going to do the Tim Ferriss books for our work week, for our chef, and then Tools of Titans. So I had to order that book for me. I hadn't bought Tools of Titans yet, so I ordered it for myself. And,
wait, you got that for me?
I did. I bought it for you before I bought it for myself.
But you didn't buy yourself a copy?
No.
Oh, buddy.
But it gets better.
That's love,
so
man.
I ordered that for myself. It comes in. My wife steals it away from the front door, though, because a night later, her mother was giving it to me for a gift, and she didn't want me to get it before I got the gift from her mom because she knew that, all the inner workings. I didn't know that. So I ended up getting the book as a gift from her mom for Christmas. But get this, she didn't actually talk to Andrea about it. She saw it at the store and was just like, that looks like a book Chase could really use for his business. She picks it up to give it to me for Christmas. She had no conversation with Andrea, no conversation with me. She doesn't listen to the show. She doesn't, nothing. She doesn't even know who Tim Ferriss is. She calls Andrea and is like, "Hey, I got this book for Chase for Christmas. Do you think I like it? It's by someone named Tim Ferriss."
Ferriss? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I now have an extra copy of the book, and I would like to give it away. Here's what it's going to cost you as a listener of the show. Number one, you got to either be a subscriber on iTunes to us or over on our YouTube channel. and I want you to send me a screenshot via email to our ask@NoteMBA email address of a piece of content you have shared of ours. Preferably that goals episode. The goals episode is huge. You could share it on Facebook, you could share it in an email, you could share it as a tweet, you could share it on Instagram, any way, shape, or form. Just share one of our pieces of content, our multiple YouTube videos, any of our podcast episodes. Send me a screenshot to ask@notemba.com, and you will be entered in. Your name goes in the hopper, and then we'll pull a name next time. We'll send it out to you.
I'll do you one better. We got a little Note MBA slush fund, so teamwork here.
Oh, okay. There you go.
We'll send a copy to anyone and everyone that does it within, let's say, 10 days of this episode going live.
So so the show goes live on the 4th. So you're going to go all the way to January 4th.
Yeah. No, 14th.
Or 14th, I'm sorry. January 14th.
As many copies as you guys can get us for. We'll get them.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Look.
Not
wow.
just one.
Wow.
Everyone can have a copy.
There you go. So we need a screenshot of you sharing the content on any one of your channels. Send us a screenshot, and you get a copy of Tools.
Do you know, I hit the goal, a separate goal, spent well over $2,500 on books last year.
Wow.
So we're going to do it again this year.
Gonna kill it. I love it. Oh, man, that's way better. Listen.
$50. It's really, that's like giving away 2 books a week.
I can't think of a better way to end the show. That's it. You guys got a giveaway. You guys have marching orders. Listen, and you know us, guys. We're transparent as they get. If I send out 1 book, you're gonna hear about it. I'm looking forward to being like, guys, we gotta send out $100.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the number where it's like, oh, guys, we gotta. You guys killed the slush fund. I'm looking forward to that. But I will not hesitate to come on and say we only had to send out 1 book, guys. I'm excited. I'm excited. Alrighty. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. As always, if you have not already, head over to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review, and of course subscribe to make sure that you can get in on this giveaway. As always, if you have any questions about anything we've talked about, be sure to head over to notemba.com, check out the show notes, and be sure to tell 5 other people you know this week, especially if you want that Tools for Titans, about the Note MBA podcast. We'll catch you guys next week.
Take it easy, guys. Thanks for listening.